I'm pushing this garbage container, and this is just one of the things that you would have to provide to your tenant when you have an apartment. So how to do the apartment math in one day without the stress of learning about too much of apartment math, right? Because I get so overwhelmed when there's too many things that I think of, what goes into the equation, what goes out of the equation. So how to do the math, the apartment math in one day without stressing it. So all I gotta do is look at your home. What bills do you usually pay? Because these bills, now you will not be paying this, your tenant will be paying it. So all we gotta do is look at it. And earlier I was just pulling this garbage container. This garbage container is one of the things that the tenant will have to pay. Currently my tenants pay for my garbage. So one garbage container contains about 60 gallons. This is only half of it. But usually a 60 gallon here in Pennsylvania, it would cost my tenant $22 to $25 per month. Now, what else goes into the equation of apartment math? Number 2 is when you have lights, you pay for electric. You see that light, floodlight right there? Maybe too glaring. You see that light right there? That floodlight right there, that's another bill that your tenant would be paying. Second is this camera here that requires internet connection. So they would have to pay the garbage, they would have to pay the electric, they would have to pay the internet. The other thing that your tenant would be paying is the water and sewer, right? To either take a shower, to drink, to do their lawn. The tenant will be paying for water and sewer. So these are just some of the things that they would have to pay. Now, because it's your property, your building sits on the land, and therefore that means you have to pay your property tax. So when you do your apartment math, you've got to build in there the property taxes that's in the Excel spreadsheet that you must account for when computing your rent. So property taxes is one of them. Now, aside from property taxes that you have to consider, you would also consider what your debt is, what your loan is. Today's rate, I got a mail from the advertising. The current rate right now, it's April of 2022. The current rate is 5.49 for 30-year fix, for a 30-year amortization. So you would have to use the calculator to get the actual principal and interest payment per month. So when you put into your Excel spreadsheet, what you do is, who pays for the garbage? For me, my tenants pay for the garbage. Who pays for the electric? My tenant pays for the electric. Who pays for the internet? My tenant pays for the internet. Who pays for the water and sewer? That my tenant pays for this. So what I do now is, because majority of the expenses in having an apartment, my tenants pay for it. So I do not put it in the computation, but it all depends on the landlord, whether it's included, majority of it's included, or you let all the tenant pay for the expenses, except for, now in the rent, you will need to have your mortgages, right? The mortgage, your building will have a mortgage where it sits on the land. The land and the building will have an expense called taxes. So that's one of the things that you have to include in there. Now, because there's a wear and tear, at some point in time, things break, like this hose break, this garden hose break, this garbage container break, this siding break. So anything in the home needs care and maintenance. So you would need to figure out capital expenditures, such as these are long-term expenses. Capital expenditures are like siding, roofing, your windows. This goes into capital expenditures. So you will have to include that in the computation. So what else goes in there? Repairs. Repairs that could happen every other day or every week or every month or every few months. It depends on how old or how new your apartment is. But there's always gonna be repairs. So you have to figure that out too. And when you file taxes, you have to pay for your accountant. So these are just some of the apartment math that you would have to consider. So what you do is, don't get overwhelmed. All you've got to do is look around your house and see what you pay in your house. And then put it into the Excel spreadsheet and then break it down as to who is responsible. Is it going to be your tenant or is it going to be you? If it's your tenant paying the responsibilities such as electric, garbage, then don't include it in the Excel spreadsheet. Now, some of the landlords will pay for it. So then you would have, if you're one of those landlords, you would have to include it in the expenses. Now, you want to make sure when you tally all those, like again, we'll recap. So if you have any expenses, such as property tax, mortgages, your repairs, your daily repairs or weekly repairs, and it depends on the breakdown, your capital expenditures, your accountant, if you have accountant to do your taxes, now you would include that in there. Oh, and don't forget, this garden here, they need care and maintenance too. So if you have your tenant take care of that, then that's not included. But if you have 2 units, 3 units, or multi-family apartments, then the lawn maintenance will be included in the expense sheet. Now, during winter, snow removal, is that your tenant's responsibility or is that your responsibility? If that's the tenant's responsibility, do not include it in the Excel spreadsheet. So these are just some of the things of doing apartment math in one day without getting the stress of it. All you've got to do is look around your house. What are you paying for now? Designate whether it's the tenants paying for it or you as a landlord will be paying for that. And then if you are, include that in your Excel spreadsheet in the expenses. And you want to make sure the income is always greater than your expense. So your asset is an asset, which means it puts money into your pocket, and your asset is not a liability. So you want to make sure that income is positive and not negative, so it can pay for all the expenses. So that's what you do in apartment investing in one day without having the stress of it. My name is Ria. I'm a family medicine physician and a geriatric physician by profession, and I invest in apartments. So if you want to know more about what I do, I wrote a book, Apartment Prescription. It's how I found, bought, and paid for our 50 apartment units, and now we're over 70 apartment units. So come check me out, Apartment Prescription. Let us go. Wealth cannot wait.